So a couple of things happened this morning. One, I opened up a whole new box of the holiday releases from Thrive Causemetics. Another thing that happened was I got a Black Friday email from a brand that I literally forgot existed, which is CoverFX. The third thing that happened, I promise this is going somewhere, is I opened up Instagram and Diet Prada was reporting on rumors that Gucci might be trying to get rid of Alessandro Michele, which, creative direction-wise, the man is a genius, but at the same time, it does make you wonder, how creative of a refresh would they be looking for to purge someone like Alessandro Michele? As I was trying this new makeup from Thrive, this whole thought pattern washed over me and I just had to start writing it all down. And it's like, what I would do if I were creative director of Thrive, because this is a brand I'm intimately familiar with. They're literally the first brand that I ever reviewed on my channel. I know Carissa personally now as a result of loving the brand for so long. I've been on giving trips with them. I have my own lip liner with them. I wore tons of their makeup to my wedding because it's very reliable. Like, the formulas are really beautiful and high performing in most cases. But as I was trying these, I was like, if I were the Alessandro Michele coming into Thrive Causemetics, where would I place my first step? And it just kind of went from there. So I'm going to be putting on a full face of Thrive Causemetics today, but I'm also going to be talking through the creative refresh that I would recommend if I were granted one of those, you know, acting creative director roles like a lot of the, you know, influencers get sometimes. So I'm going to be talking about everything from like the vibe of the brand to the performance of the products and the choices that they've made. So let's go ahead and jump in. I'm already sweating because I'm basically doing a critical analysis of a brand that I care very, very deeply about. And I honestly wouldn't give them this much of my time, energy, effort, or instincts if they weren't, you know? And the reason I mentioned CoverFX was I was like, they're still around? Like, I'm this close, I know, to hearing that CoverFX is gonna die. I don't even wanna like speak it into existence that Thrive would ever be struggling because I believe in the mission of the brand. They give for every product sold. And Carissa's heart is bigger than anyone that I've ever met. For such a small package, her heart is like the size of the universe. So I want to keep them fresh in my mind, but there are things that I believe that the brand could do in order to stay fresh in everyone's mind. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to be the coolest brand in the world. I think that that's where I want to start, is like, just because a brand wants to do a creative refresh and wants to stay current doesn't necessarily mean that they want to go be Kosas, you know, and take classic packaging and make it the, like, trying to chase the next Gen Z aesthetic. I don't think that that is what I would recommend for Thrive. I don't think that that has ever been what Thrive wants to be. So their packaging really is, I mean, this is kind of the older compact with just the T on it, and then just the T, and the new one has TC on it. And, you know, I can tell that they are trying to breathe a little bit of like new life into each product as new releases happen, but I think that we can do more. All right, so let's start with some foundation. I have here 130 Fair. I'm gonna actually mix this with their Brilliant Face Brightener, which is their illuminating primer, because it is quite full coverage on me, and I would like to do something a little bit lighter today. And that is also because, I don't know if you can tell, but my chemical peel finally finished and I'm feeling like a freckly newborn at the moment. I know, newborns are typically not freckly, but I am. So there we have that. It's a lovely formula, that primer. I mean, that made it illuminating, so it's a touch pale, but I'm hoping that it's sheer enough that, ooh man, and it commits. Boop. That's one thing that I think is so commendable about all of their formulas, is that they wear for so long. They're very, very pretty, and they have a lot of like skincare benefits a lot of times, but the main thing that I notice is just wear time. One of the first things that just instinctively occurs to me when I'm looking at Thrive, the entire time that I've known the brand, you know, its entire life in my consciousness, which, if you're unfamiliar with my history with the brand, the first video that I ever made on my channel as Khaki Reviews Beauty, or even I think it was called Hey Khaki at the time, but regardless, it was like my first real makeup review was of their mascara, which remains my favorite mascara. And they have since put out a brown, which I love. They also came out with a blue, which felt like a step in a direction, but I was like kind of like the thoughts of like being a little bit avant-garde feel kind of scattered from them currently, and that's definitely how I felt trying their holiday stuff, because we talk about, you know, holidays being red and green, and like how that's kind of a joke, you know, like why do makeup companies constantly want us to wear the two colors that are kind of the hardest to wear? Like green can be made very wearable and red can be made like burgundy, and I think that they've done it here, but they did release two new Infinity waterproof eyeshadow sticks, one in Elena, which is this aubergine kind of color, and the other one is called Tamala, and it is in this beautiful olive sparkly green. I like that. I like the way that that looks. So anyway, the first thing that occurs to me is I think that it's about time Thrive picked a vibe. We're not cool. We're not trying to be, like I said, Kosas. We're not trying to be Trixie. You know what I mean? Like all brands have a vibe, and some of them fully commit, and some of them just kind of have a vibe by default. And I feel like at this point, Thrive just kind of has a vibe by default. It's just kind of this color and, you know, pretty heavy, luxurious feeling packaging. But other than that, it's a little bit forgettable. And the first thing that comes to mind when I think about this color, speaking of Alessandro Michele, is one of the most beautiful packages that I've ever interacted with, which is the Gucci bronzer. Now, it doesn't mean that you necessarily like, you know, this is wrong and this is right. It's just like this fully commits, and I get this experience when I use this that I really doubt this component cost that much more to make than this one, and they're both quite heavy. And the powder from Thrive also has the little pocket underneath, just like this one does. So, I mean, it can be done, right? But there's something so iconic about this that still feels current. And to me, it's like at these price points, because these are not inexpensive products, I want packaging that feels covetable. There needs to be a consciousness around the entire life cycle of using this product, and that has a lot to do with the feeling of using it, of picking it up and using it, because yes, you buy a product because you like the idea of it, but you're not going to buy another product, what we call LTV, lifetime value of a customer, if they don't empty it and decide that they love it enough to buy another one. So we can look at packaging as something that's just sort of an essential, right? Of saying like, well, it has to be contained within something. And then we're talking about something like, you know, drugstore, where we're trying to make it as inexpensive as possible, or an MLM where it's just like, we just want it to be pleasing and nothing more. We don't want it to be avant-garde or offend anybody or whatever. We're not trying to be cool, because a lot of times they are really just trying to, you know, make the most money off of a, you know, overpriced product in a lot of cases. And I think it's important, especially for Thrive, because there is an MLM called Thrive and they are not that, for them to differentiate themselves from that, and to differentiate themselves in other ways too, because they are this D2C product, a D2C company, D2C meaning direct to consumer. They did a pilot in Ulta where they sold a few things, but that ended and I haven't seen them anywhere else. And to my knowledge, they are still just selling through the website. We will get to the website. But regardless, those are two vibes that I don't think that Thrive, given their druthers, would be going for. An absence of a vibe. Like there is an absence of a vibe here. And I do understand that this color is very valuable to Carissa. It's very important as part of the identity of the brand. And she's brought in branding consultants, and every single one of them, the first thing that they say is get rid of the turquoise. And she's like, I'm not going to. Turquoise can be done glamorously, it can be done iconically. I feel like the thing that happens, and I'm very conscious of color, right? I'm gonna go with my concealer. I'm very conscious of color, and a lot of times we think that like a color is just any other color. It's just you have to commit. Not necessarily. I think that turquoise evokes a feeling, and that feeling is not basic. And so the idea of taking turquoise and then making very basic, albeit pretty, but you know, very like minimal looking packaging with the color turquoise, the two things kind of disagree. I feel like if you're going to commit to turquoise, you also have to commit to something being unforgettable, you know, something that feels iconic and important when you're interacting with it, and I feel like they just haven't committed yet. It's like still a blank slate. I also have my qualms with, you know, if you are gonna go to the other end of the spectrum in terms of, God, I love that freaking concealer. Look at it, it just blends into nothing. It's awesome. But I mean, keeps the coverage, but it's like it just disappears into my skin. It's so beautiful. There's the other side of the spectrum, right? There's full luxury, which we should still be considering things like replaceable pans and stuff. But also the other end is full sustainability. And yes, there are compromises to full sustainability, a lot of times from an aesthetic standpoint, but you could argue that regardless, we should be going for essentialism, right? And one thing that Thrive has kind of always done ever since they, you know, started, God, you know, 2016, 2017, something like that. Ever since I've known the brand and I started reviewing them in 2018, I've known them to have these pieces to their components that are multifunctional, right? So their triple threat color stick has this, and plenty of them do. I have never personally found this to be a particularly useful tool, but some people do, and that's cool. Do it on the go. The one that I have the biggest qualm with is this one right here. So on the Infinity Waterproof Eyeshadow Sticks, which I will go ahead and just say it, these are not my favorite product. This formula is very fuzzy. I'm going to use one today, but it's really a very difficult product to use. And the difficulty of it is certainly not helped or remedied by this little sponge tip. I understand wanting something that has the color on it, and this does have a sharpener in it too, which is, I think that that is cool. But the Brilliant Eye Brighteners just have the sharpener, and I think that the Brilliant Eye Brighteners are a much better formula. I think that they should have run with that formula and not done this one. But this is excessive. This is a thing that shouldn't be on here because it's just creating waste. It's not a functional tool for this formula. And I mean, I haven't found a functional tool for this formula, I'm gonna be totally honest with you, but this one isn't it. And they all fall off in my makeup collection too. They're everywhere. And so it's just not, that would be one of the first things that I got rid of. The entire product, but also the little sponge tips. So if I were a creative director, it's not so much that like I would give them, you know, yes, I just laid out a bunch of options, but if it were my choice, if they, you know, gave me the reins, I would go for covetable and iconic with the packaging. I would go gold instead of silver. I would make a difference in the colors of the packaging depending on what product it is. And you might be thinking like, okay, I get it. You have a way that you like to, you know, interact with packaging, but everything doesn't have to be one way. It doesn't have to be one way. Look at what Make is doing. This is no more filigree than this is. You know what I mean? This is no fussier than this is, but it is completely dialed in on luxury minimalism because of the color and the texture and the logo. So like I said, turquoise. Turquoise throws down the gauntlet in terms of creativity. You have to follow through. Whereas Make said, you know what? We're going to go minimal and we're going to do something a little bit funky by mixing our metals. And I think that that makes it very interesting. You know what I mean? It feels current. It feels a little bit like it's got some friction to it, which is great and it's memorable, but it's no fussier than that. It's not anywhere near, you know, the fuzziness of this. I don't know what that was. And then Make puts out their blushes, right? And they have this amazing, just like they just decided, you know what I mean? And it's like there's something about a decision like that that feels more confident coming from the brand. It feels like you need to have this in your hand because we really give a damn. And I know that Thrive gives a damn. And so that's why it's like I am aching to see them commit to the full experience of using their products. I don't have a contour from them. I don't think that there is a contour. I'm just gonna use my contour because I don't want to totally powder my face just yet. So we'll get to like, you know, where I would go with product offerings in a minute, but I want to talk about the website because it's giving MLM. It's giving I'm a girl and I like wearing makeup, which I know is not the entire story with Thrive. They are LGBTQ inclusive. The website is giving stock photography, okay? It's giving Sears holiday catalog. And I just feel like all of it could be more concentrated on the performance of the products. It's like I always say when I'm talking about color stories that don't necessarily work for me because they're meant to work for somebody else. There's so much to be said for fully committing in that direction. I feel like Aether does a great job at that, because if it doesn't work for me, and that means that it works really, really well for someone else, that means that that's going to become a staple for another person versus trying to please everyone with an aesthetic or one product or a vibe or whatever. And in so doing, just not really becoming memorable or important or iconic for anyone. And that's not the case with their products. So why should it be the case for their website? Especially because they are D2C. So that's the only way that people interact with their brand other than social media. There's no other way for people to have like a shopping experience associated with the brand than through thrivecausemetics.com. By the way, y'all, they upped my my discount code. So it went from 10% to 15% if you're in the market. So I'm looking even at like their holiday collection and things like that. And it's cute, but like you can't tell that they're selling makeup. You know, they might as well be just selling lifestyle. And that would be fine if we were trying to skirt, you know, a lack of performance, but we're not. The products perform. They're beautiful, most of them. Or like I said, we're gonna get to the products in a minute. But given my druthers, I'm gonna go with my bronzer next. I'm going with the bronzer in Rhea. Given my druthers, the website would be maximal. It would be something very like pretty and aspirational, but not splashy. I don't want it to look like a Zara. You'll know I hate the Zara website. I don't shop on Zara. It's just something that lives in my brain as just a horrible shopping experience. But I would focus far more on the identities of each of the formulas and their respective performance. Like skincare, is the skincare going to look glowy and dewy and gorgeous? Is it part of my day that's going to like change the course of how I feel about myself? There has to be a differentiator. That is the essence of marketing, is there has to be a reason that someone is going to choose you and remain loyal to the brand versus just going elsewhere. And honestly, someone like Make Beauty's kind of coming for their throats right now, you know? And they should be concerned. There are a lot of really cool, very current, very high performing brands coming out right now that have their finger on the pulse a little bit more. And I'm not saying that that means that they're younger. I don't think of myself as the coolest person in the world and also someone who is just like always going to be excited about the things that like the young people are excited about on TikTok. You know that that's not me. It's about feeling like what you're spending your money on is adding to your experience, and also for a brand that does focus on a slightly higher price point, for them to feel like they align with your values and with your wants and needs from a product. I want to feel like when I'm holding one of their products in my hand, it's not just about the performance of the product, it's about the feeling of interacting with it. And I want to go on their website and also feel like my wants and needs, and maybe even just like some aspiration, some luxury for the luxury price point, is reflected back to me that makes me want to add to cart. But I mean, you can't argue with the results. It looks beautiful. So there are three new triple threat color sticks. I'm gonna use at least one of them today. So Kaisa is, I just know this from following her on social media, but Kaisa is Carissa's personal trainer. And if y'all don't keep up with Carissa, she's been on this fantastic like health and fitness journey for the last couple of years, and she is a hashtag weapon. She is like this little petite thing that could like rip me to shreds, break me over her knee, I really feel like. So yeah, I love that she named this after her, and I love this color. So this is a really beautiful, it looks a lot like Petal from Westman Atelier. I'm psyched about it, it's really pretty. So I'm going to put this on a brush. I'm gonna put it on a brush The question is, what brush am I going to put it on? I'm going in with the BK101. This is just a great brush. I also think that there are seasons for brands. I always say, especially, you know, coming out of tech, that was where I worked, was, you know, in tech in Austin. There is an ideal company size for every employee where they are their most effective. So if you're someone who functions best when you get to wear a lot of hats, right? And, you know, the company is really scrappy and there's not a whole lot of bureaucracy and everything is really nimble, but you might end up, you know, working crazy hours, but it's like thrilling and exciting. And that's the kind of person that you are. And that's when you're most effective and like you have these razor sharp ideas and you love innovating. Then a company is inevitably, when it does, you know, hopefully succeed, it's going to outgrow you and outgrow your particular most effective skill set. And so there comes a time where you have to hand it off to someone else and go and find another company that is in the stage where you are the most effective. I believe that with all of my heart. And I also think that that can be extrapolated to like a brand's identity, right? So when this brand was first coming out and it was very scrappy, people were just excited about the performance of the products and they were excited about new things coming out. I just want to resolve that thought about the company size versus a brand size. And it's like the brand gets to a certain point where it's like, okay, now you can fine tune all of the things that you weren't able to address when you were in your scrappy phase. And sometimes that means kind of pulling in new thoughts and new ideas and new people. And it doesn't mean that, you know, old people have to leave or anything like that. It's just like you actually get a chance to innovate on something else that you maybe couldn't have given your attention to before because you were much more concentrated on launching a brand. That's all I I never get around to it. So, sorry about that. We're all very impressed with the performance of the products and the colors and everything. Like, that's just gorgeous and wearable. And if there's anything that I can give, I mean, there are plenty of things I can give to Thrive, but there's one thing that they do really well, and that is they make beautiful makeup. They make makeup that's going to make you pretty. You know what I mean? It's gonna make you feel pretty. It's gonna make you look pretty. And it's just very functional makeup, which is also why I thought it was a little bit interesting that they came out with some of their like blues and things like that. I like it, but it feels like a very large version of what we call the pop of blue gimmick, where, you know, a palette is otherwise very basic, which I can get excited about a basic palette, but then a brand will throw in a blue eyeshadow and be like, it's avant-garde, it's exciting. And you're like, yeah, but like, what are we backing it up with? What was the idea? What's the concept? How do we drive this home? And as a differentiator, pop of blue doesn't go all the way, you know? It doesn't cross the finish line. So if it were me, you know, I would focus on really broadening the super useful color stories. And I think that they are doing that. I mean, this one is much more me. Kaisa is very, very me. Then we have Candy, and it is, as y'all know, very not me, although it's a little bit orange, so that's good. It's like a really, really pure coral, and I think that that's gonna look incredible on some deep skin. Like, come on, that's so beautiful. But, and maybe not me, maybe not on this look. Candy Apple Red is tough for me, and this is getting close to Candy Apple Red. Candy Apple. The other one is Aurora. Aurora is a shade that already existed in the Brilliant Eye Brighteners. So pretty. And that came out as a highlight. Holy moly, that's beautiful. We're gonna use that right now. They also, the reason that I didn't want to use it is just because they also have a highlighting powder that they just came out with, but we'll just use both. We'll just be a highlighted goddess today. And I am glad to see the progress that they're making as a brand as far as their formulations and colors are concerned, because their highlighters did used to be very glittery, and now they're not. Now they're very, very sophisticated. That's so pretty. It's so pretty. It's like this beautiful, like pinky beige. Look at it in the tube. Like, it's not icy, but it's not gold. It's just a very pretty kind of like taupey pink. I love it. I'm gonna powder underneath my eyes a little bit here. And then we're going to talk about eyeshadow. And it's about to get real. You're like, I thought we already got real. Okay, no. We're about to really get real. So yeah, this is the Filtered Effects Soft Focus HD Pressed Powder. A little bit of coverage, Beautiful finely milled texture, just where I need it. Everything has its own really pleasant dry down. Oh, and I should explain, the Triple Threat Color Sticks, if you're unfamiliar with them, they're a very beautiful silicone-based cream stick. So they go on in a hybrid texture. So they go on really like almost, you know, powdery, and they don't come off on your fingers. They're awesome. Like I said, we have 2 new Infinity waterproof eyeshadow sticks. I'm going to be perfectly blunt. I think they should stop running with this formula. I think that, you know, if I were creative director, this is the first thing that I would really put the brakes on, because it's a really difficult formula. And from a reviews standpoint, like, I cannot in good conscience recommend buying it. Even though the colors are beautiful, they're nearly impossible to work with. The one thing that drives me bonkers about them is that since I like to have my complexion product everywhere, you know, I don't know if everybody does that, but I like to like prime my eyes with a little concealer or whatever. If you put this on top of concealer, and you're gonna see it in a second, it mixes with the concealer and it just dulls down this color so much. So you're not gonna get the trueness of these colors no matter how much of it that you put on. And then when it blends with that, it just becomes really like muddy and faded and like pale looking, and maybe, you know, a deeper skin tone. Still, it's going to just take away all of the luster of what is promised in those swatches. Now, the other thing about these that's kind of a double-edged sword is that they are waterproof, and so once they dry down, they're not going anywhere, but sometimes they dry down without your consent, and then they're not going anywhere, and you weren't done yet. So I'm going to be working with the green one today. I did use both, and honestly, this extrapolates both ways. I just think that the green ends up prettier. The purple one, the kind of like eggplant looking one, it mixes so much with my concealer on my eyes that it's just really unpleasant looking. And then they also came out with a new eyeliner shade that's beautiful, and this is one that had already existed. So it's like there's a, you know, technically a red and a green, if you will. So this is Jade. To be honest, Jade has almost nothing to do with that green. So I've never really liked the Jade shade because it's so blue. I would love if it had gone a lot more olive than that, but we're going to work with it nonetheless. I'm going to fill in the gaps with something. I'm not going to end this video with something I don't like. And then that eggplant shade has its own kind of purple eyeliner that they put out with it that is a much closer match. So I did get my newer version of the Makeup by Mario palette in the mail, and so I'm going to be using that to be the supporting actor for this eye look, because I promise you it's not gonna go super well. But it is not my job all the time to show you only things that I think are, you know, incredible. So I have tried using this by taking it on a brush directly off of the stick. And what happens is, and see, I'm not finding a brush fast enough, and it's gonna dry down. It's already dried down. Dadgummit. And what happens is that it spreads out and just kind of looks gray. See, and it's already dry. I didn't act quickly enough. It'd be amazing if that color were true. You know, if that color really wore in the way that it looks, like if it really blended in the way that it looks, because that's a color that I want really badly, honestly. That is one that I think that she finally did it. Victoria Beckham, I think she finally put out an olive, because I bought Starlight thinking it was olive, and I know I'm not the only one. I think I might pick that one up. But do you see how when you blend it, it goes kind of like gray and also a little bit blue? And I want it so badly to just be that gorgeous gold green. When I blend this, it really feels like I'm blending it against its will. Against its will. Okay, I'm going to use this on the other side, and I'm going to try and use the smudger attachment. Wish me luck. Oh, cappuccino. Look at it, it just erases it. And it's down. You have about 15 seconds to work with it, and that is generous. Like, that's being generous. So I'm going to use the brush, try and remedy it a little. But I would be terrified to try and create an eye look like I would typically do, you know, that's very blended and blurred, and I use so much more of the real estate, I was gonna say land, real estate around my eyes using this, because it's just so difficult to get a really even gradient. Whereas, you know, I've been using Hindash's liquids lately and they are flawless in that respect. I've been using the Lisa Eldridge powder shadows. They are flawless in that respect. So this, for being the price that it is especially, I would just nix these immediately. Okay, I think I made something like not horrible happen there. And I'm gonna go in on the rest of my eye. Yeah, the rest of my eye with the Makeup by Mario palette. Then I'll go in with the Jade eyeliner. So something that really comes to mind when I open this up, for example, this is the new Ethereal Eyes, is how much I crave real variety and textures when I'm dealing with Thrive makeup. I am just craving to be able to top it off with something really like wet look and shimmery. And you could argue that's not everyone's brand identity, but it doesn't have to be your entire brand identity. Just give people options. That's not the same thing as putting out, you know, a space themed, you know, Gen Z trying too hard to be something you're not kind of product. Like you can do, I mean, Charlotte Tilbury does it, right? Pat McGrath does it. Wayne Goss has beautiful like celestial shadows. So does, you know, Lisa Eldridge. It can be done in a really sophisticated way. I would argue that a really spangly wet look eyeshadow is incredibly sophisticated. And this is a very sophisticated brand. And yet we have really like a very limited array of textures. And it's been that way for a long time. This is not a young company anymore. I'm going to take this brown right here, this deep brown, nice warm brown, tippy tap that out here. There are so many things about the brand that I really thought were going to expand that didn't. You know, like the Focus eyeshadow palettes, I really saw that being something where it was like a Charlotte Tilbury quad, where they just have something for every mood that you're in. But they only have 3. Need something a little fluffier. I'm gonna go in with that beautiful kind of gray. Blendy, blendy, blurry, blurry. Trying to maintain some of that green. And it'll definitely be maintained by the Jade eyeliner. If you're sitting here going, Khaki, you know, I don't think that looks, you know, that bad. Like, you know, it's underwhelming, sure, but let me introduce you to some texture here. So this is just E11, EE11 in here, and a lot of people don't like this shade in the Ethereal Eyes palette. I love it because it's green. It's this amazing green. So look at how that brings out the green in that Thrive stick. Oh, it's so pretty. Look at that. And still dadgum patchy. And that's not even a wet look, you know what I mean? That's just a satin. And they have really beautiful satin eyeshadow formulas. They just never leaned into them. I'm gonna take a little bit of that underneath my eyeball as well. Yeah, these are Fallout City. They really are. I'm also very, very spoiled currently because the Lisa Eldridge shadows are not. Using a little bit of that deep brown right there. So in terms of product offering, I have some things I would change. So yeah, the first thing is I would lean into more texture on the eyeshadows, more powder eyeshadows, something more spangly, and completely get rid of the Infinity Waterproof eyeshadows. I think that the colored brow mousse is too soupy. It gets everywhere. We are going to be using the clear one today, and it's on a much better brush, so I'm excited about that. I've all but covered up that green. Sorry. I am gonna use a little bit of it underneath my eye though. Quick, blend it before it dries down. Ah! I'm going to take a little bit of something very light colored, but blend it down here. Blend it out here. I would like to see more things that help dry skin and aging skin. So a setting mist, an unscented skincare line, you know, something that doesn't smell so citrusy. Oh, actually, I grabbed Estrella. So Estrella is the white, like the icy white brilliant eye brightener. And it's amazing. It's so beautiful. These don't budge. They're super easy to manipulate. They're just absolutely, look at that. That's absolutely gorgeous. But also, I feel like the brand could do more with concepts, capsules. They tend to bundle things on their website, and like that's cool and everything, but putting releases out as capsules, like even though this is not my favorite thing in the world, but like the Chantecaille capsules and stuff like that, where it's like these beautiful like seasons of makeup. I know, that really pisses people off, because then they're like, well, if I fall in love with something, it's gone forever. Like, I don't think that it should be something that's always limited edition. I just think that when something comes out, I like the idea that this is like a holiday release, but I feel like there's not a whole lot of like unifying concept around it that could have been just packaged better from the standpoint of just presenting it. You know, it wasn't necessarily something where it was like, and these are the reasons why we did these things. It's just kind of like, here's holiday. Here it is. Okay, Jade. I believe that this was their first formula ever, is their eyeliner, and it's super, super waterproof. And I think that that's why they came out with their Infinity Waterproof eyeshadow sticks, is because the Infinity Waterproof eyeliner is so good and it is so beloved, but it's just not the same. And this actually is a very functional smudger on the end. So this is different. This is not, I mean, yes, you can smudge your eyeliner with it, but it's actually for their eyelashes. Their eyelashes are some of the only, and their glue especially, are some of the only eyelash products out there that actually can stick onto your eyelid and not your lashes, because they were designed for people with alopecia. So people who literally don't have eyelashes at all can wear their eyelashes. And that's why they are named after Lauren. Lauren is also the color of, like, the name of the black color of the mascara, and it's because Lauren, who I got to meet, she suffered from alopecia. So good friend of Carissa's. They've done so much work in the breast cancer space. They've done so much work in the homelessness space, domestic abuse space. Like, they're so good. Like, they're just a truly good, out there doing good for people kind of brand. I just think that for those reasons, they really deserve to have their concepts be complete, you know? Like, it needs to feel like a complete thought. Kind of love that. I kind of love that with everything else that's on. Awesome. I'm gonna put that waterline too. I would also love to see them do something really special, like a collection where they did actually deviate from the turquoise as an exception. Like, if something were so important to Carissa from the standpoint of being near and dear to her heart, that it would actually get its own packaging color, that would be really cool. If it was something really important to her and it was pink, or it was black, or it was, you know, some kind of deep, beautiful, like brown and gold. Be amazing. Let's do my brows. I failed my intelligence test and I smashed my Make blade line into the lid because I put the wrong lid on. That's something that Kosas gets right, is that the lids are the same size on both ends. I don't know why all brands don't do that, because I put the wrong lid on the wrong side and they're not exactly the same size and I smashed it. Should not be the case. I think that as I'm using more and more and more makeup, right, and getting more seasoned in this career, I am getting a lot more discerning about the entire encompassing, like, holistic idea of every brand. And you start to really see things from all sides. From the standpoint of no brand being too big to fail. Like, that's a big one that's happened in the last couple of years, is just that we see these brands dropping like flies that we used to think were kind of immovable fixtures in the space. And I have absolutely no guesses or visibility into the finances of any brand. Certainly not Thrive. I'm not saying that they're like at risk or something. I'm just saying that we realize that, like, nothing is completely impossible in that realm. You know, brand loyalty is not something that can always be taken for granted from customers. It's also made me unignorably aware of the mindset of buyers, because I am so awash, not just in products, but also in advertising and imagery and the feedback that I get from y'all, which is super, super, super helpful. The more of y'all there are, the bigger this community, the more information I am able to gather. I'm gonna take some of the highlighter here. This is in Tokien. This is their new, I wanna say, I guess it's just their new shade. I'm gonna put a little bit of that in my eye look as well as kind of on the top of my cheeks, I think. So it's a little bit gold. I think it's gonna help warm the eye look up a little. Grab a little, put it up there. It's really pretty. It's almost like a skin perfecting powder. In fact, I think that's what it's called. A skin perfecting powder versus a highlighter. So it does have some really beautiful blurring properties to it. It's a very classy highlighter. I'm gonna give this a spritz here. Also, if you're looking at my nails right now and you're like, what is going on? It's color changing nail polish. So yeah, they're green and then they're purple sometimes. Okay, let's put on some mascara. Shocking absolutely no one, it will be my Thrive mascara. So yeah, I don't doubt that any of these things, like some of these things are probably in the works. It takes a long time to develop product. But I just had this kind of thrill of fear when I saw that Cover FX email and I thought to myself, I didn't remember that they still existed, and like that terrifies me. When something kind of just falls off of the flash drive memory of my brain, which I feel like Thrive was almost in danger of doing a couple of times, it makes me go, what would I do were I tasked with reviving the image? Because I would love to say that the beauty industry and these brands out there that are making great products, I believe in these formulas, I would love to say that it's, you know, at its core a meritocracy, but it's not. That's the problem. The unfortunate truth, where's my brow mousse? The unfortunate truth is that people are going to buy a product that appeals to them. That's the kind of nebulous thing, is how do you get it to appeal to them? But it's kind of like a YouTube video. You don't know it's good unless you click on it. You're not gonna find out whether a product is good unless someone has told you why it would appeal to you and done so in a way that made you choose that product over another product that may or may not be less optimal for you. And if you are a typical makeup user, you're not necessarily going to be seeking out the best. You're going to be buying the thing that you think is gonna be the best, and then you're going to, out of necessity and out of practicality, work your way through it before trying something new, even if it's not the best one that you've ever tried. And so making a great product isn't enough, unfortunately. And that's why I love my job, is because I get to tell you, I've tried them all, and here are the ones that I like and why. And like that helps you make a more educated decision, but facts are facts. If something falls off of your radar, that's the brand's fault. You know, even if they're making great, great, great products, which, you know, Cover FX makes great products, but the way that I felt when I saw that email this morning going, Cover FX still exists? That's a problem. And I have no, absolutely, like I said, I have no visibility into the finances of any company, certainly not Thrive. But when products are this good, I want to see it reflected in the entire identity of the brand. I don't hold stock in the brand or anything like that. I'm just an affiliate. So this is my namesake lip liner, best color in the world. I'm gonna blend this in and just put clear on top of it. This is their Sheer Strength in Mayong, which is clear. Just a really pretty balm. But yeah, the other thing that I fear is that in some cases, the performance isn't there. And that's how I feel about the Infinity Waterproof eyeshadow sticks. I feel like that is something that if it's the first product that someone tries from the brand, they might not have enough faith in Thrive to try more products, because it's a very, very frustrating formula, especially for a makeup beginner. Here is the clear brow gel. I love that they put a, you know, life-size mascara wand on there. That's one of my favorite things. The only other brand I've seen do that, Make has one like that, but I haven't tried their clear. And the Kaja one has a really big one. Like on a clear brow gel, why not? You know? It's not like it's gonna get everywhere. These tiny little wands, and just like, really? So this is lovely. I like this a lot. Has a good amount of hold. Not me thinking we need more blush. And a touch more powder underneath my eyes, just because I sprayed myself with MAC Fix Plus Magic Radiance, and so it's going to make everything glow. I just find that reflection under my eyes a little bit distracting. And that's the vibe today. I wonder if y'all appreciate a video like this where I kind of put my critical thinking cap on from the standpoint of being in, you know, I was in marketing for almost 10 years. And the kind of advice that I would give to any brand consulting with me from a completely, I mean, yes, in this case, it's a very biased standpoint because I am biased in favor of Thrive. But beyond that, just like working on behalf of a brand as a consultant or something, I'm going to give my honest opinion of what I truly think would be extraordinarily helpful for the brand, you know, as far as just their short-term and long-term vision. So yeah, I hope that y'all liked this. And of course, Thrive still is near and dear to my heart. This look is incredibly beautiful. I like it very much. I like the green, even though it was a little bit difficult getting there and I did have to employ a lot of, you know, the Makeup by Mario palette still. I wanted to share it with y'all because I think that it's really pretty. And it's just kind of showing the potential of the brilliance of this brand and just some of the things that I think are still in need of either working out or refreshing. So yeah, if y'all did enjoy this, please do give it a thumbs up. Like I said, you can get now 15% off at Thrive with my code down below. So do enjoy. It's not my code, it's a link, and then it'll generate a unique code for you to use at checkout. So that is there. And I will list all these products below. Let me know your thoughts, and I will put a video that I have chosen specifically for you to watch right here. I hope y'all enjoy it. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, you should probably subscribe because you're gonna keep watching them anyway, and I upload often. I love making content for y'all, so definitely subscribe. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I love y'all so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!